super excited though to have Waukee come because we call them the original trailblazers for the instructional mentor position. So at Johnston, when Jesse, Todd, and I first got our positions, we were bringing them every other day going, okay, now what with this, and how do we do this? And so we felt like they kind of helped guide us along the way and answered so many questions. So they're going to give us a very grand overview of kind of where they've been and where they're going and everything in between. So with that, let's welcome Waukee. And I'm going to let you guys introduce each one of these, okay? Oh, and here's the clicker.
All right. So like Danielle said, we are the Waukee Instructional Mentors. We are the 4 mostly elementary instructional mentors for our district. And then there's also Sheena Grove, who takes care of most of the secondary side. But I am Kristen Soriano.
Rachel Wynette.
Jill Schneider.
Nikki Witzemeyer.
So the mission statement for our mentoring program in Waukee is that we are here to accelerate the effectiveness of new-to-profession teachers to impact student learning.
I get the first slide because I guess I'm the OG of the OG. Something. I am the oldest. We started way back in 2015. We have our 2 directors of teaching and learning that were there. We had 1 instructional strategist, and she worked with our special education team along with our director of special education. We had instructional coaches in all of our buildings, and then we had curriculum leaders. And at that time, we had 1 curriculum leader per grade level, per subject for the entire district. And then we had building mentors, so the traditional where we had probably all started where we had a building mentor for each new teacher, first year, second year, and then the new to Waukee staff. And then along came us, instructional mentors. We started out with an informational meeting because nobody knew what it was. So anybody who was interested, Lindsay Law did an informational meeting, kind of explained maybe possibly what we might be doing. But again, there really wasn't a definition at that time, a mission statement. We just knew that if we were applying, that we were interested in working with new to the profession teachers and that we would be full release so that we could work side by side with those new teachers.
Into 2023, we have grown tremendously and added a lot of new positions to our TLC. The biggest was at the top there with the directors. We added 1 elementary and 1 secondary director of teacher and learning, and they kind of oversee all of TLC. So in ours, it's Allie Locker and Charlie Folsom. Instructional strategists, they went from 1 to 4, so they help all of our special education classrooms, but they stick closely with some of our new teachers as well. Still have 1 instructional coach in each building. Our high schools have 2. Northwest is adding a second one next year. Curriculum leaders, this was a big change for us along the way. Now instead of having 1, we have 1 per subject, K2 and 3-5. In each building as well, so that helps a lot. And then secondary, approximately 1 per building per content area. We still have our building mentors. We still have us as instructional mentors. And then we have district coaches. We have 9 district coaches, and we'll go over those in the next slide. But they're super useful to us and our new teachers and anyone else in the district who would like to use them. Something that helped us tremendously as mentors is we also hired curriculum facilitators, and they are full release as well. From the mentoring standpoint, they help us a ton, especially in the secondary world. We hired a related arts one that works with anyone who's related arts. So for elementary, it's PE, music, those things. So our new teachers are supported by them. And then she also helps, speech, anything secondary world that would fall underneath there. And then we also hired CTE, and she has been a wealth of knowledge as well. And she supports anyone in the CTE area in secondary that's new to profession as well.
Does everybody know what CTE is? Because we did not. We didn't know, and we have learned so much from her and all that goes into that area of learning and growing. Our district coaches, like Rachel said, we really lean into them. We went a little while, even as large as we were, without a literacy coach. So when we brought that back, we have one elementary and one secondary literacy coach. We have one math coach who's K through 12. Tech and Innovation, who we also work very closely with our new teachers, is we have 2 elementary and 2 secondary. We have one behavior strategist, and that's a fairly new position. She's K through 12. And then we have one specific for ESL, as well as their mentors that they have for ESL. We try to connect our people to these overall staff. For example, this year, I'm often in elementary, and this year somehow I ended up with 8th and 9th grade language arts and 8th and 9th grade social studies, and then an 8th grade language arts. And so I was able to tap into our secondary literacy person for the curriculum support, and of course, their building mentor for that curriculum support.
Okay. So in our role, we only support the first year teachers. So we have 10 elementary buildings, 2 6-7 buildings, 2 8-9 buildings, and 2 high schools. If you've seen the little drama that's happened as well, we're in the process, and we just finalized the restructure of our middle school buildings coming up, going into the high school as well. So with that being said, that will change a little bit, but we support, so our buildings change every single year, depending on where our new teachers are hired. Typically, the 4 of us will support the elementary buildings, and then Sheena will support between the 6, 7, 8, 9, and high school. Obviously, our growth is huge in that area right now, so we've been leaning into that area as well, which has been pushing us a little bit as well too, but really eye-opening and really great experience. But that's where hiring the related arts facilitator and the CTE has helped us support and lean into other content areas as well. They've really taken on some of that support, and the new teachers have been super, super grateful for that content support as well. I think future, they're hoping to hire world language facilitator as well as health and PE, and then in our eyes, that would also help cover the mentoring of those teachers as well.
Really quickly, so in the elementary world, between the 4 of us, number-wise, typically it varies a lot, but typically I would say we each have around 2 to 5 people that we're supporting. So I've been in this role for 4 years, and I had 3 people my first year, 2 people my second year, 4 last year, and 4 this year, which means a lot of support for those people. And I would say that's maybe one thing that is special about how we are structured, is just that we have so few people, so tons of time gets put into each of those.
Like Kristen said, we stick close to them. I know our first year, we each had 2, so we were truly able to side-by-side model, teach next to them, be a part of their PLCs, do that. As we've grown, that has spread out a little bit more, and we're learning how to make sure we're giving them the same levels of support. It might just look a little bit different, and that's how we're able to lean into some of our other district coaches. So one of the things that has occurred is that the very first year, we had this big drum rollout, who our people were at the last day of school kind of thing, and Lindsay Law gave us a card, and it told us exactly who we'd have and what building we'd be in, and it was wonderful and fabulous. And then in June, it changed, and then in July it changed, and then in August it changed again. So learning from that, they switched over to letting us start to know in July or sometimes even August, depending on where our new people are being hired and where they're at. The other part of that is that our principals, most of our principals have asked us to be in on the interviewing and hiring if they know that they have some applicants that are new to the profession, teachers. So we're able to sit alongside their team and give input with their team. We had one principal that had us even go through a coaching cycle with one of our, or coaching conversation, sorry, with one of, with the different applicants, and then have our feedback there. And what we're really looking for on our end of it is that coachability. How and what skills do they bring, and how open they are to being coached and being a part of a team. We also started doing welcome emails. The shift that we did there is we send the welcome emails now from all of us, because really by fall, we're not always quite sure who will have who, because we've hire all the way through into the first day of school almost. And so we send out an email from all of us welcoming them. One year we gave them books that we felt were important that we were going to use for a book study, some just different kinds of things like that, making sure that we were reaching out and that they had all the important dates that they would need in the summer, and letting them know that we're here for them to support them. Then in July, we get a little bit closer. Usually our partnerships are assigned by that end of the summer part. And we start doing building tours, ice cream socials, and that community building among the first year teachers. We do the building tours and the ice cream socials all together so that they can meet all of us, because we will all be working together for seminar, and we want them to know that they can reach out to any of us at any time during the year. And it's a great time that by the time we get to the ice cream social, they are trading phone numbers, they're supporting each other. I know one year one of them bravely asked the question, do people survive this? So it really gives them an opportunity to be with people who are going through some of the same fears, some of the same anxieties, and some of the same excitement that they are as well. We do the building tours to let them kind of take a peek into the classrooms and how classrooms might be set up in different ways and different styles. And we start to then infuse kind of what our belief systems are in Waukee and some of the things that are important to us. It also helps them feel like they can ask us to come in and start working with them, even though they aren't officially under contract yet. So if they have their keys and they know that they can reach out to us. I think that's it.
I also feel like having the building tours and getting them into classrooms and seeing how they're already set up to be student-centered, it really was proactive on our end. It really sped up our work in August. We already have started getting to know them. We've started to build relationships. We've, had the ice cream socials, but they're calling us before work has even started and making sure that it just makes it so much better that in August, you're not trying to hit the ground running on that part of it, the physical support so much. That part's already done. And they're already building trust with you and getting all that set up. So that's been a huge piece for us. As we start the school year, we spend so much of our time, obviously, in that physical support, making sure their room is set up so that it works well, thinking through kind of what they've dreamed it to be, but also, hooking them up with people in the buildings that they can go see their classrooms and ask questions to. One change we made this year in August is that we started a pre-service seminar. And this was really great for us because it again sped up our work in August. So at our pre-service seminar, we focused on things like attention getters and transitions and the importance of it. And this was back when they're on contract, so it's their first or second day of contract days. We asked principals in our team, can we have them for just the morning so we can tell them all the same things? And we've linked our pre-service seminar slides there. But we talked about materials and where to store them and any questions they have. And they're all in a safe place, and it's just our first year teachers. gosh, we went through so much, and we noticed this year that was game changer for us. We got to those pre-service days, we're running around to all of them trying to get the first couple of days planned with them, and we had already had these conversations, and that was wonderful, wonderful step for us. So that is something we will keep on our list for next year.
And that was in addition to what they were already doing on their onboarding, both district-wide with the district coaches, and then also in their own building. So this was an addition to that.
They go to Waukee Welcome, which is like our district orientation. And in that place, we bring together anyone who's new to district that day, and it's a big to-do. Everyone shows up in their best dressed and breakfast, and there's learning sessions, and they get to go around with just the people in their building that were hired new that year and their principals, and it's just fun. There's like social stops along the way, there's little workshops along the way, there's district coaches that introduce themselves and tell them how they can support them. In that day, they walk around and hear the message of support of, you are supported. There are so many people here that will support you, and you belong here, and they kind of get the mission and vision in that day. We definitely go to all their pre-service days with them, and then we start with that institutional support of like, how do you make copies, and where do you get this resource at, and what do you have for you? How do we help you organize all of it? And then also start with the open house and curriculum night videos. So open house would be when students come. Curriculum night videos is something they send out at the beginning of the year to their parents. So we support heavily there. But also a big thing is because we have fewer teachers and we support 2 to 5, usually we start to get to know families right away too, and students. So we send out at open house night, we almost always have some kind of introduction to our families and students of who we are and what our role is in that classroom, so that we can really start to get to know their families as well. I think that's something that we all in this role find value in, because we miss that, having our own classroom, so we kind of still get to sneak it in there.
Okay, first semester, this is when things get real. This is when they're like in it. And so I would say our biggest role at this time is building trust, building relationships with them, having them feel comfortable having us in their classrooms, and vice versa. And also, we want to just be another teacher in their room. When we walk in and we walk out, we want the kids to just know that we're another teacher. We are a part of the relationship with their teacher, so we spend so much time in there with them. We model, we coach over their shoulder. We're constantly with them, so the students see us just as a team, that we're like a partnership in it. So thinking about just classroom management, setting up routines, we are helping them do every single one of those things along the way, helping them tweak different things if things aren't working for them, if they have challenging behaviors. It's so nice for us to get to know those students in that way, and we can help collect data and then also know what to do next. What interventions can we put into place from the get-go? Also, of course, parent communication. A lot of that happens at the beginning of the year, so we're there to help them facilitate phone calls or write an email home, all of those pieces with communication. And then, of course, seminar. Seminar happens right away at the beginning, and that's a time for us to bring them back together, and they can be with other peers who are going through the exact same thing that they are. I would say this is a time where there's a ton of emotional support, physical support, and then also the institutional support. And then a lot of our teachers have observations right away. They usually happen like September, October, and that's quick. And so we're there to help them navigate through all of the documents that they have to fill out, and then also creating their lessons and feeling successful with that right away at the beginning of the year.
So once we get through that, second semester, we move from the types of support that we maybe needed at the beginning of the year. We do a lot more of instructional support. Not to say that that doesn't happen first semester, because it absolutely does. But second semester tends to be where they're like totally ready to take off and run. So we continue to have seminar. at this point, especially like right now-ish, we really start to focus on making sure we're building the connection between our new teachers and those district coaches, because we know that in year 2, we're not there anymore, and so we want to make sure that they're set up with connections already as we let them go. This is also the time when we bought back in with our year 2 teachers just to make sure they're ready to go with their year 2 portfolios. And then we also, in our district, every new teacher, new to profession or new to Waukee? New to Waukee? New to profession. Okay, every new to profession teacher gets 1 full day of sub coverage to go on in-district observations. So we set those up. We find like, you know, this teacher needs maybe a little bit of support with math rotation. So we then find someone in the district who would be a good role model for that. We set up a sub, and then we get to go out with the teacher and observe in those classrooms, which is really awesome. That little sheet that's up there is something that we give the teachers. There's also a backside that we'll see later on, but just to help with some of that data gathering. Then April, May, as we wrap up our year, we have our last seminar, which is really just a giant celebration of everything they've done that year. We do a lot more coaching rather than so much mentoring. It's that time when like they're not just getting by. And so we can start to think about next year and trying new things as we wrap up the year. And it's just a whole lot about making sure that they're set up for success as we pull back a little bit in year 2, a lot bit in year 2. And they still have their building coach, they still have a building mentor for a second year, and then those district coaches. So we just try to really lean into that. And then finally, like we said earlier, this is the time when we start to also sit in on interviews for next year's teachers. Danielle brought up a couple things that she wanted us to clarify really quickly, so I wanted to take a second to do that. The first thing being seminar and like what exactly seminar means for us. We will cover that coming shortly, but like the quickest overview is it's professional learning that we do just for our first and second year teachers. We plan it, we lead it. It happens 5 times a year, now 6 since we added the pre-service. So, but there will be more about that in a second. And then the other question was, or she just wanted us to clarify, is a little bit about how, like, so for us, she phrased it really well, like it is not invitational, it's here we are, welcome. And so we try really hard. So the ice cream social is something we started, I think our first year, maybe like 4 years ago. Okay, and we make it very clear from the start, like it's so low key, and we sort of start to resent our role there, and we say like, we will be in your classroom for days at a time. We are not there to judge. We are not there to evaluate. We are not there to question what you're doing. We are there to help support you. We are there to help you grow. We're there for you to cry to. Like, we are literally there to just make you the best teacher you can be. And we try to reiterate that over and over and over again. And we also give them a little bit of like, you can go ask last year's teachers and the teachers before, like, it's not that bad. Like, it seems really scary, but we're not scary. And so I don't know if there's anything else.
We've also built our reputation on that too. Like, so many of our teachers come and they're like, we hear we get mentoring and we hear it's really awesome and we hear this and this and this. They know already, just from, if they know anyone in the district, they know what they get as a first year teacher as support. So, and principals, when they hire, also say, this is part of it. Here they are. They're at your interview. This might be the person you're working with. It might not. If it's not this person, it's one of these, other people. And they pretty much say when they're hired, you will have a instructional mentor as well too. Anything to add?
So I just think it's nice for them to be able to put a face with a name if, when we do get to sit in on interviews, it's nice for them to be like, oh yeah, I do remember seeing you and I remember that this is your role and I know a little bit more about you and your role. And I think that's comforting to them to have that.
So are there any questions that people want us to clarify?
You mentioned the second years continuing to build a mentor. How does that relationship evolve or change? What are your expectations in that sense?
So they have a building mentor, and that's typically grade level. That's what we strive for, is that they have a grade level mentor. And so that starts from the minute that they begin, and they work with them throughout the first year, and then that just continues through the second year. And a lot of times, we have a good relationship with them as well, and we collaborate kind of as a team to be able to work through lesson planning. And during their PLCs, because we work so closely with the teacher, we get to experience their entire team and their mentor relationship. I would say they kind of do what works best for them, but most of them, because it's on their grade level team, they're meeting multiple times. I have one teacher this year, and we didn't have a second grade teacher that had been there long enough to be her mentor, so she has a first grade teacher that's her mentor, and I would say they meet like one day a week just to do a check-in. So it's kind of what works best for you.
We typically encourage once a week, but there's no like set long.
I would also say, like, at the beginning of the school year, there's a little bit of mentor training. It's just kind of an overview. But with that being said, we sit down with the mentors of the first year teachers for just a tiny bit afterwards. And I think one thing we voice to them is that while we are part of that team that year and we are there to help with everything, we often say, like, they'll want to be doing what you're doing. They'll want to be doing what you're doing. So the planning, because they often say, like, what do I work on with them? And we'll say, if you can help with the planning piece, we can cover classroom management, data, modeling small groups. Like, there's so much within the classroom that the building mentor doesn't get to see the day-to-day, but we do. We can coach on that stuff, but they're gonna wanna be doing the planning that their team is often going with, and we can, make that feel like theirs and help with the team to do those things, but we lean into that with the building mentor as well.
One more thing with that too is if we spend 1 week at one building and then the following week we go to another building, that is the time that they really lean into their grade level mentor when we're not there. Because they're just someone in the building, they can get a quick answer from them, so that's super helpful too.
How does your rotation work? Like, if you have two teachers, how does it work?
That's a great question. It all depends on, honestly, the needs of our teachers. So an example would be, I have 2 buildings this year, I have 4 teachers. So I spend 1 week at one building, and then I might spend the morning with one teacher and the afternoon with the other teacher all week. And then the following week, I would go to the other building. But there have been many times when we've had to spend an entire week with one teacher, just because that's what that teacher needed in the moment.
I think it also depends on what we're modeling too. So if I'm modeling writing all week, I might even bop back the next week, and they might say, I can have writing first thing in the morning, you come do that, and then you can go to your next building too. So, I mean, there's several times we're bopping back and forth to our buildings, especially at the beginning of the year, trying to get classrooms set up too.
Very flexible.
When we had fewer people, so like when we've had 2 or 3, it would be, I'll be with you all week, next week the other person, next week back with you. So it all kind of also depends on not only the needs of our teachers, but how many people we've got.
I was curious about the observations that you provide your first year teachers. Is that just a one-shot, one day, or can they split that up in half days?
Good question. Yes, we do both. It can be 2 half days or 1 full day, just depending on what it is that they want to see. But yeah.
We can also be in building at any time, so we can cover their, so the 1 day is for the subs, or the 2 half days are with subs. But there's also times where we can have them, if we've had them sometimes go down and observe the reading lab teacher if one of the areas that they're working on is their small group reading. And we can do that because then we cover their class while they go and do that.
We also sometimes, we also sometimes like to pair up as we do those observations. So if we've got a second grade and a second grade, and we then could take them together, just thinking, more minds there. The sub stuff has made that a little more difficult because they don't want us all going at the same time, but when we can, we pair up. Okay.
All right, forms. We have a lot of forms, and we put a few examples on here. There we go. Here is one form that we like to use at the beginning, and this is for the mentor and the mentee to have. And this is essentially just a way to get ready for the school year. And we like to have them go through this checklist. It provides links to all the things that they need. It's kind of a one-stop shop for them in setting up their phone or their projector, just all of the things that they need to do. And instead of us telling them different things at different times, we just hand them this form.
I'm gonna stay over here. This one is the one that popped up small before. This is just, there's nothing magical about it, but it's an example of one type of form that we might use when we take teachers out for an observation. What we really try to make sure that we do is specifically point them in certain directions for what to look for. So this one on the back side then has, it's the next, yeah. It's, you know, if the teacher needed to specifically take a look at what was happening in math or reading, we try to break that down for them with this.
There we go. So this is just a document that has all of the different supports and what we can support them with. And of course, there can be more than just this list, but if we have any teachers that have some resistance to having us in their room, or they're maybe not knowing, like, what can I ask her to do? Or, you know, what can I have her model? This is a great resource for us to give to them. And then they're able to look through it and say, oh, it looks like, you know, she can help me with co-teaching, or maybe I teach a unit or a lesson. So this is essentially just a way for them to see what we can provide them.
It's also linked in the slides that Danielle shared, so if you can't read it on the tiny itty-bitty print. This is a form that we use sometimes, depending on who. We don't have any specific paperwork or recording that we have to do, but occasionally we have, like, sometimes it's just we have a lot of teachers that we're like all in with, and we just need to keep them all straight, so we might use it. Sometimes it's used with a teacher who maybe just needs a little extra structure in their mentoring. And so this specific one is stolen and adapted from the New Teacher Center collaborative assessment log, and we just made it have Waukee colors. But it would be something that when I've used it, every time I copy the slide, put it up above so that the top slide is always what we've most recently worked on, and it sort of gives a structure to, like, hey, when I come there are things that we need to be working on, and it sort of focuses our work. Oh, and this is just another example of that. This is one Rachel has used, and it's just a Google Doc, and same thing, it's just copied and pasted above every time.
And same thing with this one, just another way for us to connect with them. Each year and each mentee requires something a little bit different. So sometimes this works really well for our teachers to be able to have a Google form. Sometimes they like writing it out. Sometimes they don't do either. Sometimes it's a matter of us just taking our own notes to know what we need to talk to them about the next time. But the wonderful thing is being with them for a week, that conversation can just keep going each day, so you don't feel like there's a long length of time in between.
We always start with that celebration piece so that they know the great things that they are doing, and I think that that has helped them as we're trying to coach them into some new areas or trying some different things, that they feel that they're successful and they're moving forward, and not that we are evaluating them or telling them that they're not doing a good job. So that celebration part is the very first part of all that every time. Oh, it's me. Okay. Seminar. This seminar is honestly, besides being in the classroom with kids, seminar is my absolute favorite. It did not start that way in our district. Our first year, our seminar was the mentee, the mentor, and the instructional mentor. And we would meet and there were cards, and we'd walk around and read the cards and get together. There wasn't a lot of direct learning. The cards were great because it brought that conversation together, but there was just a piece that we didn't feel was getting done for our newest teachers. So the next year, our team took over a seminar and started to build what we wanted it to look like. We had the mentors and the mentees there, as well as our specials teachers. And what we ran into there is that we were working so hard to make sure that the time of the mentors was honored, that we, again, weren't sure we were quite getting to what our mentees needed the most. And in particular to our specials teachers and what they needed the most. So moving forward, we moved into having our first year teachers and our second year teachers. And that's kind of been our sweet spot. What we saw is that our second year teachers, it kind of gave them a start into that leadership and knowing things and being a leader. And it gave our first year teachers those spaces where they felt maybe a little bit more comfortable asking some of those questions that they had, or also showing their leadership and bringing some of their greatness as well. So a lot of conversation there. So it is our first and second year teachers. We do split up our elementary and secondary. The other thing that we have gone back and forth with are our special teachers. So we want to make sure that time is effective for everybody. So a lot of times they'll start with us, and then they might have a breakout session with one of our district coaches, and then come back together, because we want them to be a part of the community, but we want the time to be very effective for them. They are 5 times throughout the year, plus we have the bonus one that we will continue to keep in August. They're around an hour, 3:30 to 4:30 for secondary, so right as they're getting out, and then 4:30 to 5:30 for elementary. We don't have this in the notes, but snacks, really good snacks, are a huge part of that, and those are district-provided snacks, so it's wonderful. It's all set up when we get there. And then the what? We choose by sometimes a survey, so sometimes a more formal way survey. Sometimes it's just our observed areas of growth and what our district needs at that time. We also pay attention and look at what our district coaches or also our building coaches are doing. So what's happening in PD and how we can support, model, add to that. And then we also think about those next steps. We bring in our district coaches, so they've met them at the beginning of the year. We might have brought them in for a one-on-one, but this gives them another opportunity. Plus, it gives them an opportunity to hear how second-year teachers have utilized and continue to utilize those district coaches. They do get graduate credit for that. That was written into the first-year program. And then our Y, and they get reimbursed, yeah. So they can use that tuition reimbursement for that one, for that grad credit. And the why is really just building that community among first and second year teachers and accelerate their growth and the impact on that student learning. So bringing it back to our students, that student learning. We are modeling throughout that seminar things that they can take back the next day to their class so that they feel like they had something right then and there, plus a lot of time and space for reflection and conversation.
Like Jill said, we've gotten our topics for seminar in a variety of ways. Sometimes it's from their feedback, sometimes it's what we've noticed in the classroom as areas of growth, but they've kind of fallen under these big ideas of instruction, management, community, and goal setting. And we've really tried to honor where they're at, and which we can do when it's just our first and second year teachers, and then provide further steps for them to take right back to their classroom as well. So some of the big things that we've hit are that small group engagement, lots on data collection and how to use that to plan your instruction, differentiation, planning, and a little around some resources as well. Really get into management. With the environment, we hit that really early on, But attention getters and morning meetings, oftentimes we'll model a game that anyone can take back. Energizers and mindful moments, and talking about the importance of those routines. And we do a lot with scenarios. Like, we take things that are really happening in their classrooms, and because it's a small group, and because it's first and second year teachers, and they're experiencing many of the same things, they're actually applicable to them as well. Just that community of morning meetings, they get a lot of time to network and celebrate in that time too. We've done a lot with goal setting and reflection. We used the Great Work Project from a couple years ago. Currently, we've gotten the opportunity to learn from Tina Bugren. We've had some online trainings with her, and we've linked our slides for the most recent seminar, which is next week. But we're using a lot of her work that's coming up. And we actually are bringing in building mentors this next time. So actually their building mentor will come with them. That has not been typical in the last several years. So we're excited to have them for this one time.
Originally, there was a plan for those building mentors, and that was kind of derailed by COVID. And so that is coming back, and what that will look like will be one of those goals, that increased learning and that increased support for the building mentors. What's really cool is our building mentors are asking for that, so we're excited to hear that they want to come and want to be a part of that. Continuing to work on that comprehensive TLC support for new teachers, making sure that we're making all those connections as we continue to grow in our district. And then that differentiated support for first year, second year. And then one area that we really want to continue to explore are those new to Waukee teachers. We hear a lot about that from our new to Waukee, like, can we come to seminar? Or how do I get one of you? And so that's just another area that we'd like to look at. I think that's, yeah.
What do we do to support the new Waukee teachers? Like, we've started to put them in the mentoring program as well, but I'm not sure.
Currently, they're supported by their building coach, and they're supported by their building mentor. So they have
get
both
1
of
year,
those.
a building
1 year.
mentor. Yeah.
Mhm. They do get that. Yeah.
Is it content or grade or?
They try to do grade or content. Yeah, yeah. Secondary, looking at content, elementary, grade.
I know Sheena has pushed for secondary to be content.
Okay, let's bring it back. What questions do you guys have for Waukee? About seminars, about forums, observations?
Do you invite all of the district coaches, or how does that, because that's kind of where we're stuck in the monster. How do you get that going?
As far as seminar,
Yeah.
so I would say like 98%, not really, 80% of our seminars are just us. And then usually like once a year, we try to invite them in, and it's an email out to all of them. Hey, can you come do an elevator pitch for your role? Yeah, and we're very lucky. Most of ours are, yep, I'll be there. There's always a couple that can't.
Are those seminars required, like contractually for those teachers? So then if that's the case, what happens if they can't attend? Where's that accountability piece?
That can get a little dicey because it is connected to grad credit, and so that piece of it, or credit. So that piece of it is we do pretty firmly state, like, we have expectations for you to be there, and if you can't, make sure you notify us. We've had sickness, different things like that. And then we one-on-one go through those slides with them, or if there was a goal setting, we sit down with them one-on-one and do that goal setting with them. What we run into, I'm noticing in secondary, because this is my first year with secondary, is coaching, and how that might be worked around, because a lot of our secondary people are coaches, and this definitely can be tricky for them. So I have 2 mentees. I have two mentees. One won't be able to be there because he's coaching basketball, and then one might not be there because if we have anybody go to state for speech. So I'll meet with the two of them together and walk them through everything.
I would also say, if I've got my 4 people this year, if I start to notice like, hey, Nikki hasn't come to 2 of them already, it would be the conversation of like, hey, just remember, you got to be there. So just those personal conversations with them too. I would say, like, I don't think we've ever had anyone that it's been a huge issue with.
They want to come, honestly. And even their 3rd year, they'll be like, can we still come? I mean, we found that it's been really beneficial. And because of how much time and thought we put into it, we feel like we're providing them with what they need. So it's not just like another thing. They actually are walking away with something that they need. So they want to come.
And they're excited to see each other. That's part of that's part of that community building, right?
I would say, I would like to say it's us, but I really think it's just each other. Like, they want to see each other, and they have that time. And I would say, because Jill and I were part of it, back when Building Mentors attended it, it was not the same turnout. Like, we had turnout, but we have way better turnout and attitudes towards it, I think, since turning it into just 1st and 2nd year teachers. With that being said, though, one of our goals is we know we need more training for our building mentors. They were supposed to be meeting with Allie and Charlie and getting training, and they're seeking that, but just COVID has derailed that, and it just hasn't come back quite yet. So I think their attitudes have changed tremendously, knowing it's just 1st and 2nd year teachers in that community building.
Any other questions?
How do you handle mid-year hires?
I got to do a lot of mid-year hires this year at our secondary. Elementary, we've had it happen a couple of times, and we just connect with them as fast as we can, make sure we are connecting them with their building mentor and everything in. That's where that flexibility, where we don't have a tight, rigid schedule that we have to follow, we could pause and spend more time with that person for a little bit. Secondary hires, kind of that same thing where the building coach usually does and principal do a lot of the onboarding, and then we jump in right away with curriculum, and a lot of their curriculum also comes from their team, and then we help them with their classroom management and being a part of the district, because coming in, they may not feel that community right away, so we try to build that piece as quick as we can too for them.
I would say too, every year as we're making hires, there's a giant spreadsheet and names go in, and every once in a while we call them the asterisk names. They get a little asterisk as like, this is a special circumstance person too. So our criteria, like obviously if you are a traditional 1st year teacher, you're getting support. Then there are always those like, well, they taught 1 year, but it was special ed in a farm school. Now they're gonna be kindergarten in Waukee. Like, let's put it, maybe they need us. Or this person has only taught 1 semester and it was, kindergarten, but now they're gonna be middle school social studies. They're the asterisk people. And then it kind of depends on numbers. I would say in elementary, no, I've never experienced it in elementary. In secondary, Jill is the person who got to support those people hired mid-year because she was already at the school. And so it just made sense for her to pick that up. There are times too, I would say the building coach just kind of steps into that role. If we're already spread thin, or if it makes more sense in that way, they might just get the coach. I also would say sometimes those teachers then are also, like a couple years ago, then they get the next year with full support from us.
If they're 1st year, yeah.
Would they jump right into seminar?
Yes. We have 4 new, 5 new, 6 new, I don't know. We have a lot of new coming to seminar at the secondary this time. We also have some related arts new to the profession that will be coming too. So there's actually quite a few new ones coming to seminar this time.
Waukee a round of applause.